I'm a heart attack survivor. At 32 years old, I had a heart attack. Went in and had an emergency quintuple bypass surgery.
Wow.
And so I have large scars and a lot of healing.
Welcome to Vulnerability Muscle, the empowering podcast challenging norms and guiding you to find strength and power through vulnerability. I'm your host, Reggie Ford. In a world that often portrays vulnerability as a sign of weakness, I believe it is a source of tremendous strength and authenticity. Through insightful conversations and thought provoking interviews, Vulnerability Muscle aims to redefine vulnerability and help listeners develop a new perspective on their own lives. Each episode of Vulnerability Muscle delves into a variety of topics such as mental health, social issues, and mindset shifts. We explore the power of vulnerability in healing, building resilience, and promoting personal growth, as well as fostering meaningful connections. This podcast provides practical tools and strategies to navigate life's challenges, overcome adversity, and create more inclusive and just environments for all people. John, welcome to Vulnerability Muscle. How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And I want to just one get to know you a little bit. But before we do that, I got some rapid response questions. You good with that?
I'm great with that.
Awesome. All right. So, what is one thing you do to relax when you're feeling stressed?
Well, I don't know what stress you're talking about. That doesn't exist in my world. I'm just joking. Man, as a small business owner, there's a couple of practices you have to find, because when you own a small business, your demands go from the minute you wake up, catching the emails that came in overnight, to late night calls with your team. Or I do a lot of international business, and their daytime hours are our nighttime hours, and so finding relaxation for me has been about prioritizing a specific event every day, and that is my lunch. So I have a kind of a funny rhythm. It works great for me. My staff knows they can't invite themselves to lunch with me. My lunchtime is quasi sacred. I have a family at
Sacred.
home, and so I don't get evenings free because I get to be dad. And so every day of the week, I have a specific lunch place that I go to. Monday's a specific place. Tuesday's a specific place. They know my order. So I'll literally get in my car on autopilot, say, oh, today's Monday. Oh, today's Tuesday. I'm driving here. Walk in the restaurant, sit down, don't have to think about what to order, don't have to converse with the waiter about their daily specials. Most of them just bring out my meal. They see me coming in, they go ahead and put it in and order it. And I have about an hour free every day to be me, to be myself, to decompress. Sometimes it means I'm watching an episode of a TV show on my tablet. Sometimes I am sitting there taking notes on things that I just need to deal with in terms of outside of the world of work. And a lot of times I stare at walls, and it's quite wonderful.
Yes. I love that. And you said a key word, sacred. That time for you is sacred, and I love it. And it sounds like even routine and consistency is a part of that, because that creates predictability. So I love that one. Thank you. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
take that
absolutely.
and start to incorporate some of that. What comes to mind when you hear the word vulnerability?
Well, see, traditionally speaking, if you were like, what's the definition of vulnerability? I'd say weakness. You have your strengths and you have your vulnerabilities. And so traditionally, that word is the part of the armor that's unprotected, totally accessible to the enemies and to the people who are up against you. Obviously, the nature of this podcast isn't tell me all your weaknesses so that I can expose you and take advantage of you. So I assume you're dealing with more of the emotional and mental form of vulnerability, which is, hey, you can't get helped if you can't show people where your needs are. And so part of this process of explaining vulnerability in this mindset would be being willing to address and understand the areas where you might need some help, and looking to those around you to step in and be that shield or be that piece of armor that covers those areas for you. It's a team game. So for me, the right form of vulnerability is one where you're not isolating yourself from the world. Instead, you are engaging with the world with honesty about you, your strengths, your weaknesses, and how you can help some people and how people can help you.
Wow, I love that. I love that answer. Thank you for that. And last question, what is one of your favorite childhood memories?
Hmm. Oh my goodness. I have like four memories. Most of them have dumped out the back of my brain as I've gotten older. Um, yeah, I tell you, so there was a Christmas. I grew up in a very impoverished family. There were seasons where we were just good to put food on the table. This specific Christmas, I was maybe 10 years old at the time, was one of those seasons. And so our dinner the night before Christmas was we had some leftover mashed potatoes, we had some spinach in cans, and we had some pepperoni. And so my mom cooked the mashed potatoes, threw the spinach and pepperoni. It was red, white, and green. We called them Christmas potatoes because it was a perfect flavor.
I
And we
love
ate
it.
that. That was our family dinner. There were seven of us in our family, so it was a lot of food to get around to everybody. And the next morning we woke up and my parents were in the middle of telling us that we couldn't get presents that year. And somebody knocked on the door. And a friend that my dad had spent a lot of time with over the last couple of years as a husband and wife, and they were having troubles. And my dad often stepped in and helped people reconcile those differences. And their marriage was in a good place. She was a doctor. And so they knew about our family struggles and they showed up with bags of presents for the family, a
Wow.
brand new go kart, and with five kids in the family, that go kart was like the dream come true. And so, all in, it was that moment of my parents' complete inability to provide, and then somebody stepping in and said, "Hey, just like this vulnerability conversation, hey, let me help you. You've helped us in ways that money could have never bought. We have some money. Let's help you in ways that money can help." And so we had a great Christmas that day. They stayed with us all day, taught us how to do all the things with all the toys. And that family still, now 30 years later, is very precious to me. I actually went and saw them last summer and spent a good 4 or 5 hours with them because that memory is so substantial to me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That what a story. That's beautiful.
Well, thank
Like
you.
that gives me hope for humanity right there. I love that.
Well,
That's
30
so
years ago,
beautiful.
humanity, I don't know about today's anymore.
We're just declining, huh?
Mm.
Oh man, John, introduce yourself. What do you want the world to know about you? Who is John Woerner?
Oh, you ask all these hard questions, and I appreciate them. I'm sure you ask everybody these questions. I'm not the first, but it's my first time hearing them. Who is John Woerner? First and foremost, my identity is in my faith. I am a Christian man. So before I can get into any other part of who I am, my identity is founded and based in biblical truth with a relationship with a Savior who has saved me from the penalty and consequences of my sin. That's the top step, identity. And everything I do as a business owner, as a husband, as a father, as a friend, is rooted in
Mm,
the teachings and learnings of my faith. Secondarily, I'm
mhm.
a father. I have three children. I have a wonderful wife. We have been together for 16 years next month. And
Congrats.
I now have a teenage daughter, and that is scary. Not only is she a teenager, she's also very attractive according to the boys. And so we are working on that observation in her life. I would say my next primary identity statement is that I'm a business owner. I own a small lighting company. I have a partner in that venture. We've been in business 2 years, a very successful first 2 years of business, and most of my days are spent in my role in the business, working with my staff to help maximize their potential and get the obstacles of them completing their jobs out of their way. 80% of my work balance is just helping my team to thrive in their roles. And so that's been a big deal for me the last couple of years. Another big part of my background or history, there's two more items I would discuss about my identity. One is I spent 11 years as a competitive gymnast. high level, not Olympic, but one right beneath it, and power tumbler. And then I've been coaching that sport for over 20 years since. I have a huge love of coaching. I have a huge love of developing and finding potential in people, and bringing that out. And so that's a big part of how I father and how I husband and how I business lead. 20 years of practice and looking for potential and finding it is really grained into me. And the last thing
Hmm.
is I'm a heart attack survivor. At 32 years old, I had a heart attack overnight. Went in and had an emergency quintuple bypass surgery. And
Wow.
so I have large scars and a lot of healing. The heart attack gave way for healing in areas that I didn't even know I needed to be healed. And this isn't physical. This is emotional. This is mental. A lot of things you learn when you face your own death. And then you consider, I call this my bonus time. So in a soccer game, you
Mm.
get to the end of the game and the rest blow the whistle, but then they have a clock. And there's a little bit of extra time at the end of every game that you get to play. And maybe you can change the outcome of the game in that little bit of leftover time. And so my whistle blew at 32 years old. And I have no idea how long this stage of life is going to last. But I'm going to maximize my understanding of who I am and my understanding of the impact I can have as a result of knowing that this is my bonus time.
Wow. 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 I just want to say I'm glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you are here.
Well, you keep asking hard questions.
No, I mean, they're not meant to be hard. It's like when you get a piece of paper, like at the top, it's usually like name. That's all I
Yeah.
was looking for. It's like, I'm John Woerner. No.
Well, I'm sorry. I'll answer way more simply going forward if that's what
No,
you would
no,
like.
that was a fantastic answer, and I mean, just learning a lot about you right now. One thing, I mean, I wanna know because that was very significant. What have you learned about yourself, after having that heart attack and that surgery?
There was a lot in me prior to the heart attack. I'd already found a lot of success in life up to that point, and I
How are
really
you defining
prioritized.
success when you say that?
Yeah, great question. I really prioritized my career. I really prioritized my kudos. At the time I was working for a Fortune 5 company in a global role, and I was going into their small subsidiaries and parts of their company that needed some work, and I'd come in and I'd evaluate all of their culture and all of their results, and we would take a look at results and say, hey, the culture needs to shift here and here and here to get you to better results. And the purpose of shifting cultures was really results oriented. If you can
Mhm.
fix this, your turnover will go down. If you can lower your turnover, then your sales success will go up and your customer retention will go up. It was very or inorganic in the methods and mentalities I was using. It's still culture, which is organic, but the goal was inorganic. And I got a lot of praise for that. I kind of abandoned my wife and my 3 young children in the pursuit of this career. They fell to the back burner. As a result, I definitely was fascinated with my own role and title and things that were about me. And so the heart attack, the person who showed up was my wife. The people who were there were my kids. Looking at my own death, knowing that it wasn't a good situation, was really bad. What I knew is the people who would miss me wasn't the corporate America. It wasn't the places I had been and gotten all these kudos. It was going to be the 3 kids that grew up without a dad and a struggling young mom who would now be a widow. Uh, and really no plan for success for them. And so that heart attack really pulled me away. In fact, I left corporate America right at the point of my heart attack. I was done. Began to start and run small businesses and maintained a I'm at home most of the time presence. And even if I had to travel, like I travel a lot in my current job, when I'm home, I'm dad. There isn't like, okay, I get home and now I can relax because I've worked hard this week. It's, hey, I've worked hard this week, but my lunchtime is my relax time. My nighttime is my dad time, and that is as important as anything I've done during the day. And so it's always been a big shift. And I think the other major focus is my wife and I began to talk about the pains of the first decade of our marriage leading up to this point, the ways I'd hurt her, the ways that she had gotten shielded from me in our
Mm.
emotions and our relationship. And so as we've worked through this, it's been a very wonderful growth in our marriage. And look, if anyone's listening to this podcast, I tell you, you married that person for a reason. You knew at one point that that person was a part of the completion of who you need to be.
Mm.
And if you've forgotten that, you got to stop and take a look at what changed. You know, what
Wow.
actually drove us away from that position in life, because that's where you need to get back to.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that advice. I think a lot of people will glean a lot of wisdom from that. Um, that's phenomenal. I asked the question about success because that was something that in a different experience than you had, I started to challenge the traditional way that success was told to us and what was actually defined as success being, financial and career and status and whatever
Right.
you want to call it. But then like you said, like you had to sacrifice something for that success. You had to sacrifice time with your family. You had to sacrifice your health. You had to sacrifice different things. And I look at it now as if I get the traditional success and I'm miserable and there's no one around me, then that's not success. Right? I want to have the harmony of all of those things working in congruency with each other. And so I'm glad. I mean, it's a hard thing to at 30. I'm 32 years old right now, and I'm just
Mhm.
thinking like, I've had a lot of stress and trauma in my life, and I feel my heart sometimes acting like it wants to do something crazy, and I'm just
Mhm.
um uh it's become a greater focus of mine to really prioritize my health and my well-being and focus on those relationships. So thank you for that story and that advice.
Yeah, I'll tell you on that note, dealing with stress, if I can share something. Um,
Absolutely.
One of the places that this heart attack has impacted my, I guess, strategy when I talk to people about certain things, dealing specifically with anxiety. I have a major amount of anxiety post heart attack, not because of work or because of what people say to me, but because I'll wake up at 3 in the morning and my heart will be racing. And then I get in the mode of, oh, here I go again. And then it races more. And then I'm wide awake and panting and having trouble breathing. The cyclical nature of the anxiety attack, as they call it, is one that uh, is very real to a heart attack survivor.
Mm.
The challenge, though, is I had to learn early on what's really going on here. Get myself outside of the moment and into like almost looking at myself from overhead, like an out of body experience. Okay, what's really happening here? Well, I woke up, I jerked, my heart started racing. I felt it because it was pumping strongly, and I began to cycle myself up. So, what are the steps I have to take to cycle myself down? And so when we're talking about learnings from this, especially if you're someone who struggles with anxiety or struggles with overwhelming thoughts or feelings, it's okay. How can we back away from the moment and take a look at what's really going on in our life? What are the things I can identify that are still
Yes.
healthy? My heart is still beating. Hey, that's still healthy.
Yes.
I'm still breathing. Hey, that's still healthy. I'm laying in bed and I have tools in my immediate grasp. I have a couple of little things to monitor my blood pressure and my heart rate, and I'll get them out. I'll sit up. I won't lay there. I won't stay in my moment. I'll get outside of my moment and I'll sit up and I'll say, okay, here's the first step I take every time this happens. I go ahead and put this heart pressure or heart rate and blood pressure machine on my arm. I'll test it. Hey,
Mhm.
that's okay. It's 120 over 80. I'm in good place. Okay, so my heart's still racing. Now, how do I calm down? Well, for me, it's typically a breathing exercise I'll put myself through, and then I will find a specific. For me, it's a process of prayer. For other people, it might be a process of meditation or whatever they do. But ultimately, it's I have a rhythm that I go to the minute it gets overwhelming.
Yes.
I have to train myself how to engage in a healthy way before I cycle into a very unhealthy series of events that keeps me awake all night long. It messes with my day the next day. Now my heart is out of whack because I haven't slept in 2 days. And
Yep.
now I've got myself stuck in an anxiety attack cycle that I cycled up. We have to
Mm.
choose to cycle down instead of cycling
Mm.
up.
Wow, wow. That is so good, and I think, I'm sure that well, I'm gonna assume that you check your blood pressure when you're not going through, heart racing and things like that. You pray when you're not having those experiences.
Absolutely.
And I think that part is crucial as well because
Mhm.
when you're in that moment, like if you're in an anxiety attack and you're like, you're not going to be able to say, oh, I remember when someone said to breathe or whatever. You have to practice those
Yeah.
moments before that event happens. And so that's something I do as well. Like I have racing, my heart races at times at night as well. And I will usually put on a very soothing, either binaural beats or a meditation or something that's just very soothing to my ears. I get some essential oils and I sit there and I breathe. And by the time it may be 15 minutes one day, it may be 75 minutes another day, but
Right.
by the
Right.
time at some point I can sense that my heart rate is back down to normal. My breathing is back normal, but I have to practice that before that event because
Mhm.
I'm not gonna have the resource to be able to pull and say, "Oh, let me go grab this essential oil. Let me go." You have to practice that. So that's a gem. That's a gem. I love that. Thank you so much for giving that
Absolutely.
to the audience.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Wow. You talk about people a lot. I hear in the way that you talk, it's people focused. It's people centered. Where
Mhm.
did that come from?
Um, we talked about my gymnastics background, and I had a coach early in my life. Coaches out there, you impact your students one way or the other. Be aware of how you're impacting them. But I had a coach who, man, I was a good gymnast. I was very skilled and very fast learner, strong, flexible, all the things you require, confident. But I also was the youngest of four boys and very downtrodden as a result, overlooked in most areas of my life. I was never as good as my brothers in 80% of the things that happened. And there was a coach that saw me and said, "Hey, you're you. You are uniquely you." And he'd get down in front of me. I was, 3'5", whatever, at 8 years old. He'd get down in front of me and he would just look me in the eyes and says, "Hey, all I expect from you is your best. I'm not comparing you to anybody else in this gym. I'm not comparing you to this other gymnast or your brothers or anybody else. You just be the best version of you can be. Let's talk about what that looks like."
Wow.
And his influence in my life, I had an identity. I had a reality because he saw me as a person with potential. And so as a result, it changed me. And then
Mm,
as a coach, I adopted his style. So when I first started coaching, I was 14 years old. And I learned that every single student that I engaged had a potential. They might be the best at this and never any good at that. But for me, my
mhm,
goal wasn't to point out all the things they weren't going to be good at. It was to say, if you could be world class on bars, we're going to be world class on bars because bars is where you show your skill set. Let's go after that because we can
mm,
hype a whole lot on all the things they're doing wrong. But you don't
right.
make a world class person by harping on bad. You make a world class
Yeah.
person by saying, "Hey, you are uniquely talented and gifted here. Let's draw that out of you." So, moving forward to business life, this is how I operate my company. In the business world, a lot of business owners, and I think they're wrong, just to be blunt, hire positions. All right, we have 3 customer service positions. We have 5 sales positions. We
Mhm.
have 10, fulfillment type positions, manufacturing, construction, whatever. And I'm going to hire somebody into this position, and they need to fit within the mold of what I've created the title of this position to be. Let's talk a lot
Yep.
about job descriptions. All right, this job description says that you have to be able to do this and this and this to be effective. I need you to bend yourself into this job description, or you're not going to fit. That's terrible, and it's wrong, and it doesn't create a really well-oiled culture or machine. Here's why: every person you hire has a skill set, has some gifts.
Yes.
You need to hire good people who want to be at work, who are motivated to success, who want to thrive, and then you build job descriptions around who they are. And if that means this one person only does half of the fulfillment job that you need them to do, but they can do it 3 times faster or 3 times better, you hire that person in and you give them a job around their skill set, and you bring in somebody else who might have a skill set in the parts that they're lacking in, because look, we can't do it all. No individual can do it all. And so for me, the way I manage my company, you can ask any of the employees we have 18 employees here. And the way I do it is I bring them in as an employee, quote unquote. You're coming to work for me. Let's put you in these few jobs. We'll try a few different things out. If something begins to resonate well with you, let's talk about what that is. Cool.
Mm.
Hey, actually, let's get you morphed more into this role because I'm beginning to see some skills. And my job as an owner is not to fulfill some set of requirement tasks. It's to say, hey, look, I have an employee who knows more about who they are and who they were created to be than they would have known if they hadn't come to work here. And now it's,
Mm.
can they be world class at this? And that's my love is in 2 years of business, I have lost 3 employees. 2 of them have come back to work for me. I have 18
Wow.
employees and I've lost 1 in the last 2 years. Not because I'm this
Wow.
really cool guy or I pay them tons of money. We pay well and I am pretty cool. But the bigger picture here is because they come in and they begin to buy into this concept that they could be great. And the whole thing we have to
Mm.
discover is what greatness looks like for them in a professional sense. Because as they learn professionally what they can be good at, it impacts their home life too, because now they're coming in with confidence and joy and
Yes.
excitement to be at work. And those are the things that you really, really want your employees to feel, because then they go home and they're not exhausted and angry because their boss just doesn't get them and doesn't understand their goals and doesn't know how to, pay them well for what they're doing. We don't hear that in our company. We have
Mm.
tiffs
That's
between
beautiful.
employees, but they're willing to work them out because they love their job so much they're not willing to go anywhere else. That's the kind
Yeah.
of stuff that the right attitude of culture development and coaching to someone's potential, not to their
Yeah.
weaknesses, changes about how business owners can thrive in business.
Gosh, that is powerful. Listen, is a bunch of people listening right now who are like, I want to go work there. We don't even know what your business does right now. They want to come work for you because of what you just said and how, and I can feel it. It's a passion of yours to build good teams and to develop that healthy culture that helps businesses thrive. That's
Right.
beautiful. I love that you've taken sport and translated it into business, because I played college football. And, when you're doing the interview process of going into the job search and everything, a lot of people ask, what are some of your transferable skills? Or that's something that you're trained to talk about. And you did that exactly. Like from the coaching that you received to then coaching to transferring that to business. That's fantastic, man. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you. And
What?
I will tell you, business, it doesn't matter what business I'm in. If you can
Yeah.
find a leader who understands who you are and who you're built to be, you could be in plumbing, you could be in lighting, you could be retail, you could be a restaurant worker. Man, align yourself with leaders that understand how
Yes.
to draw out your best, and you're going to thrive and you're going to
Yes.
find success. The style of business, just pick a medium and work. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Right, right, yeah. When you said, pointing out the strengths as opposed to focusing on the weaknesses, reminds me of a conversation I had with one of my buddies who's in the scouting world, in baseball, and he was saying how, some players, they're pretty well rounded, may have some skill sets and things like that, but the, like, dominant ones, they're really good at certain things, and they
Hmm.
may not be as well rounded, but they're really good at the things that they're really good at, and no one's
Hmm.
better than them in the world at that. And that's what they see and they focus, and they want to take advantage of that and build team around that. If this person's lacking over here, we're gonna find that other person to fill in this position. And so sounds a lot like what you just described. That's amazing.
Well, there's a phrase that's been in business for a long time, and it's actually probably hundreds of years old. It's called a jack of all trades and a master of none. And everybody loves that idea. Like, I can be a jack of all trades. I can be pretty good at a lot of things. The problem is the second part of that sentence they ignore.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather be a master at something than okay at everything? And I would. I'd rather be a world class leader and developer of my people than a huge businessman or wealthy or any of these other things, because that's what I want to be a master of. And I'm going to fight all day. But I'm really not good at staying organized in my schedule. I'm really, really not good at handling angry people. I don't really do a great job of like lawn care, or I've never used a chainsaw in my life. I am not a good cook. And I could spend a lot of time trying to resolve those places in my life that I'm just not okay. You want to get me to grill out, you'll have a bunch of burned something and it won't look like meat. That's my problem. If I can spend my whole life focused on effective leadership of people, then I can have people around me who are good cooks, who know how to grill, who can do my lawn care for me. They're going to have their skill set. And for me, man, I'd rather be a master of something than a master of nothing. And so that's the
Mm,
change in how I lead. And that's the change of my mindset compared to a lot of business owners and leaders is we really want a well-rounded team who all knows how to do everything. Yeah, that doesn't ever make you great at anything.
mm. Let me push back on that a little bit. Have you heard the full quote?
The
A
full
jack
quote.
of all trade. The full quote to that.
No, I actually haven't. I just hear that one all the time.
Okay. A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one, is the full quote.
Okay, that's still wrong.
Tell me why.
Well, here's the thing. So, let's say you have 100 hours, right? And you could take 100 hours and you can focus on becoming really good at 9 things. How many hours did you commit to any of them? Right? 11 hours?
Yeah.
Sure. Or I could take all 100 hours and try to focus on one primary goal. The question is, what is that goal? I have 100 hours now focused on something. And anybody in any higher education, you have to take a certain number of hours of your major. Of any sport, you have to spend a certain number of hours focusing on a specific event or skill set. If you don't give them that hours, you won't be good enough. And so we all who are high performers understand that the more I distract my focus. Now, granted, as an athlete, you have to be well-rounded in your strength. Cool. That's part of the becoming excellent at anything. I can't be in football worlds. I can't be an excellent cornerback if I don't have speed and good hands and arm strength to pull a ball away from somebody. I just can't do that. I have to have those things because I want to be an excellent cornerback. You watch skill players in any sport, you're going to find the ones that are the best are the ones that say, "Hey, this is my identity. I don't want to do seven." And then you have the random, guys who can do both sides of the ball, and there are a few guys who are just uniquely talented, but most of them, the best, they're specifically focused on that role, that position, quarterback, running back, fullback, whatever you want to call it. That's their job, and they know it. And so, in this space here, I don't think I'd rather be good at a lot of things and, only versus only good at one thing. I want to be world class at something. I don't know
Mhm.
many people that are world class at two things. Maybe you do.
Mhm.
If I'm
No,
going to be world
no.
class, I have to fight all the hours of attention towards that, not just splitting it down the middle. The more I split my attention, the less I can be great at anything.
I like it. I like it. I wanna, I'm just throwing this out to the audience. What do you think about that? One
Yeah,
way or the
great.
other? I like it
Let's
both.
back
I
and
like I
forth.
like
How's
it
that
both.
sound?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, man, that's good. Tell us what your business is and what it does.
Hmm. The real answer is my business is my people. That's how I view it.
That's
Our medium
beautiful.
of,
I like
of
that.
revenue is we sell lights. We design and manufacture new kinds of lights. We bring them in and we retail them. And we often install them as well for customers around the country. The primary vertical in which we are doing lighting right now is car washes. So we do lighting in car washes all over the country. If you've ever been to a car
Cool.
wash that has cool colored lights in it that do all kinds of
Mhm.
shows and stuff, that's stuff that we've typically designed and installed and sold in those areas. But for me, I had no interest in lighting 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I wanted to be a great business owner who had a great team. We just chose lighting because that was a revenue application that we could fill. And so for me, who am I as a business today? I'm a lighting company. But really, I am a great group of people that I am blessed to be working with. There's 18 of us. And if we were to say, hey, you know what? We can no longer import from China due to various issues between our countries, we'll morph into something that's local. We'll become a lawn care company. I don't really care what we do to make money. If you have a great
Mhm.
team, you can go move into any avenue and you can be successful. Now, if you had a team that was only about filling a role and everybody knew that their job was XYZ and it wasn't about their success, it was about your success, then you can't morph that quickly. And you can't find success in new arenas that you might not have found success in before.
Mhm. Yes, yes. I love that. I love that. Do you Did you buy the company? Did you start the company? Give a little background on that and any advice that you would give to any entrepreneurs out there.
Oh, I am full of advice for entrepreneurs. That's actually something I love. Business strategy is one of my skill sets, and one of my strengths. Um, for me, we started the company from scratch. My business partner and I did. We had been in a lighting company previously to this as part of a bigger team, and we had some concerns about customer treatment, employee treatment, how things were managed, because my sole focus is the health and wellness of our employees and how that
Mm,
translates to a customer's experience with us. And the group we were in struggled with that mindset. And so we left just over 2 years ago. We started this company. Uh, What's funny though is most of the employees followed us, and I hate to say, "Ooh, I win." That's not the goal here, but they knew me and they knew my care for them. And so 11 of the employees right off the bat came over from that other company, started working for us because of their relationships with the customers. Several of the customers were able to jump alongside of it. So my startup story is unique in that we already had a revenue stream of relationship. We already had a team. So we just had to now fund the company enough to actually generate revenue to supply money to keep the team together. And so I will tell you this, though. Entrepreneurs and startups, there is absolutely um, a lot of work required in your mind before
mhm.
you actually dive in. There's
Yes.
strategizing, there's planning, there's help you can find. We talk about vulnerability. Most of the owners I see that start a company and fail is because they think they know better and they go after their way of doing business. And what happens is they don't get the right support in their weaknesses, and their weaknesses begin to way overshadow their strengths. And they get to 10 employees and suddenly they're not good at managing large groups. And now 4 of them have quit. And it's always the best 4 that quit because they know they can get a job somewhere
Mm,
else. And now they're left with the bottom 6. And now they're trying to get the jobs done in a healthy way. And then they work themselves into a cycle of self destruction
mm,
because it didn't have the right plan of attack. If you're starting a business, get help. Get outside support. Know your
yes.
weaknesses. Know your weaknesses, not the company's weaknesses, not your employee weaknesses, but what are the areas that you are willing to admit, hey, I'm really good at building tables. I'm not good at
Mhm,
invoicing and billing customers. I'm not good
mhm.
at sales. How do I take
Yeah,
my great table building skill and sell it and then get money from it? Well, if I
yes.
think I can do it all, then I will never be an effective business owner. I will only fight, and hopefully sell a few tables and be really frustrated with the experience. Man, find your weaknesses and then get
Extremely
support from
frustrated.
people that are great around you and let them help you design a system for sales and fulfillment and invoicing and customer relationship and employee retention. Get help.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best traits that a leader can possess is the knowledge of their strengths and their weaknesses, and then the ability to go and find people who complement those. It's
Right.
like if I'm in the room with everyone who has the same strengths as I can, we're just going to build 15 tables and then be stuck on all the other stuff. And I even tell people because I'm really good at a lot of things, and it's just natural. It's like this thing that just happens where whether it's sports, whether it's academics, whether no business, whatever it is, like
We call this,
I'm really
you're a high performer.
I am a high performer. Yeah.
Right.
And it will either intimidate some folks or seem like things come easy. Some things do come easy, but that they can't stack up or something. And what I tell them is that you look at the world totally different than I do, and you have intelligence, you have wisdom that I don't possess, and I value that. I value your input because it comes from a different experience than mine. And we all, like you said earlier, we all have unique gifts. We all have unique strengths, and it's about bringing those out of people and so that they see them, so that they can apply them to whatever it is. And so, yeah.
And here's
Oh
an
yeah.
important key, I guess, correction on an earlier commentary we had. And I want to make sure that if you're listening to me, like, I like what this guy's saying, I'm going to buy in. Be cautious. You might have 5 things that you could be world class in. You might have 3. You might have 1. The point is don't waste your time in the things that you know you won't ever be great at just to become adequate at them.
Yeah.
High performing athletes often are really good at more than one thing. The point is know what you can be great at. I have
So
athletes I've
true.
trained for years that are incredible on 3 of the 4 events. And what I've always told them is they get so frustrated by that one event that they can't be successful at. I'm like, look, go win gold on these other 3, make up for your weakness over there. You'll still win gold
Yeah.
all around. You will
Yeah.
still be the
Yeah.
top dog and you might never have a good vault, but you know what? Be a great bars, floor, and beam worker. Do great at those things. It'll make up for it.
Yeah.
And so in the same manner, there's a book. And if I never recommend books. In fact, I don't even love a lot of books. This is one I had to read when I was much younger. It's called Now Discover Your Strengths. And it had this thing called a Strengths Finder test. And all it is you take this long test. It's like an hour long, like personality assessment. And it gives you 5 key words that you can use to describe your strengths. I'm an ideator. I'm a strategizer. These are words that I have learned that I can say, hey, you know what? I'm a guy who strategically comes up with really cool ideas. These are the words I use for that because these are the things that I am unique at. And when there's 60 strengths in this test that you could fall into, if you find 5 that really fit you, that's the ones that you want to take your time and work on. And so to your point, you're really great at a lot of things. Be aware of that. Don't dismiss that. But at the same time, don't waste time on things that you're just adequate at.
True. True. And you just brought I got to check that book out. You brought up something for me that I had to become very aware of myself is that when I am good at things, it makes it harder to delegate and
Mm-hmm.
naturally not being a person who wants to ask for help. So I'm taking your advice and I'm like, yes, thank you. I'm a person who naturally doesn't want to ask for help. And so what I would end up doing was, picking up on a concept, learning, what I needed to do. And now everything is stacked on my plate. And I'm like, this gotta change. I have to be able to delegate more. I have to be able to trust other people to do the job that they are capable of doing. And one of the ways that I like when it really hits me is because I love learning. I love, any type of like I'm gonna learn something new all the time. But I challenge myself on when I'm learning something, why am I learning it? Right.
Right.
If I'm learning digital marketing strategy, like why am I doing that? Why? So I can control the digital marketing of it all and have to
Right.
put all those plans in place and everything? Or am I learning how to play the guitar just because I simply want to hear the sound of music? Like that, those are two different things. And so I've been much more cognizant around why am I learning certain things? Is it because I want to have my hand in it and not delegate it? Then I stopped learning that, like, because I know enough right now, technical stuff, to do what I need to do. And now it's all about building that ability to delegate. So thank you for that.
The way I look at that, I imagine myself as a dump truck. And every time I
That's
add a new
flattering.
piece of knowledge, every time I add a new piece of knowledge to the front of the truck, something falls out the backside.
Mhm.
And so the way I look at it is the more I want to know about something, I have to choose and pick, hey, I really want to dig in and understand that fully because I know the more I learn about this, the less my brain's going to be in tuned with something I learned 7 years ago that I might still want to have retention of. That's when you asked me about my childhood memories. I think I've learned so many new things as an adult that I've gotten down to just a few left. And so in the same manner, my staff knows, like, I'm like, hey, you guys go work on this. I don't actually want to know how to do it. I don't care to. They all understand, like, that's because he knows if he invested himself in that, there's going to be something else that he's letting go of in this process. We call it opportunity, cost, and business.
Mhm.
To pursue something, what's the cost on the other side? Now, I'm not really a dump truck. I'm not really one who, if I learn something new, it falls at the backside. But I always have to caution what I spend my time on. So I picture myself as a dump truck as a result.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. I like that. You took that in a different route, and I'm glad because it made it a little bit more flattering than you had. When you think about your upbringing, your childhood, what are some things that has influenced the way that you think, that you operate, that you go about life today?
You're going to find the answer to this to be completely out of character to our conversation so far. I was a childhood gamer
Okay.
before gaming was cool. I'm talking. I'm quite a bit older when gaming was being developed. I was like, I bought the first, Sim City. I bought the first Civilization. I had the original Nintendo. These are the things that I grew up doing. And I was like, oh, gaming will rot your brain, and it's horrible for you. And I ardently disagree. Certain
Yeah.
kinds of games will rot your brain. No argument. But the games I got into young, my first favorite game was Lemonade Stand. Lemonade Stand was that game where I would sit down and I would like look at tomorrow's weather, figure out what ingredients I needed to buy because I knew I'd sell more or less lemonade the next day. These are the things. How much ice did I need to buy? And I would play this little video game about business development, and I learned I loved it. And so I started playing larger scale games of empire building and resource management games. And now as an adult, I would say 30 or 40% of my business strategies come from the things I learned from a lifetime of gaming. And
Wow.
so the biggest impact to my business understanding and outside of the people portion, but just the business side, the strategy, resource management, revenue rates, expense rates, knowing what it's going to cost me to make this decision or that decision. It's natural to me because I spent literally 15 years of my life in front of computers and, consoles playing games where I was building something and developing something. And it has been a huge impact to my success
Wow.
because, believe it or not, it's just a system. And businesses are
Mhm.
just systems. You have an
Mhm.
input, you have a processor, and you have an output. The exact
Yeah.
same as a game is every business you could ever look at. You have your sales, you have your processing and fulfillment, and you have your billing. It's all
Mm.
the exact same model. And so for me, gaming was the largest influence on my success today, outside of my experience in sports and growth there.
That's fascinating, and I love that you are a person who can learn from all your experiences, and I love that. Like, you're not just doing it for well, maybe you were just doing it for the sake of doing it, but you retained something during that time that now you apply today, which is beautiful. Um, I'm curious, you talked about, growing up in poverty. Was there anything that you felt like you had to escape from by getting into gaming?
Hmm. That's a fun one. I would say absolutely. The rags to riches story is one that always captivated me. And most of your rags to riches stories, those who aren't familiar with that phrasing, it's somebody who starts out in extreme poverty and then they make a lot of good decisions and now they become wealthy. And that was a gaming mantra of the 80s and 90s. And it's absolutely been, in the news as we look at people who you see their background, you're like, man, it's so great. Robert Downey Jr. was in such a terrible place and now he's turned his life around and now he's thriving. We love that story. And so for me, absolutely, my gaming was the place that I could be successful and wealthy, even if it was just on a screen. So I do think it played into that. I think the bigger picture, though, um, is I had this internal drive to just do it just one piece better the next time I did it. So I'd play the same game 100 times, and every time just try to get one thing a little bit faster, a little bit cleaner, a little bit less challenging. Find the easy button. I'd do it 100 times to find the easy button. We talk about, people's development. Oh, overnight success. Yeah, but you don't know the 100 times that I've fallen on my face to get to an overnight success. I've put 20 years into my overnight success with all the
Mhm.
other things that I've done to get there. Yeah, everybody who's an overnight success, it appears it was a single phone call, a single opportunity, a single moment,
Right,
but they have 20 years of practice of not finding that moment and trying to do it just
right.
one step better to get there. And so, absolutely, gaming was an escape from my poverty. Gaming was an opportunity for me to feel important, successful. Um, and that's almost embarrassing to admit to, but it is something that I can't deny that it did play a big role in how I function.
Yeah, and I wanna just say to you that, like, you are important and you are fantastic with or without the success from business or anything else, and that I don't think it may feel embarrassing, but I think it's courageous that you're able to speak to it and actually acknowledge that. I'm proud of you. Yeah.
That's why I didn't like the question when you asked it.
I like asking questions that people don't like.
I
I'm
understand.
gonna wrap it up with a couple more rapid response. These are a little bit more challenging than the ones before.
Uh oh. So you say rapid response. Do I have like a timer?
No, no. You can answer these however you want. Rapid is just these. I call them rapid response, but really they're just the only canned questions that I have.
Got it.
Um, so the first one is, and you talked about this from an entrepreneur standpoint, but what is something that you and your business or you personally need help with right now?
Hmm. Everything. No, to be blunt, uh, we talk about this concept of vulnerability and asking for help and things. There are areas in which everybody in my life is pushing me to grow. And I'm really struggling with even accepting the reality that these are areas I need to grow. And my temperament is one of I want to be behind the scenes. I want to be happy with coaching some gymnasts a couple days a week and having a small business with 18 employees and having a great family at home. And I'm very, very blessed to be in this position. Um, but there's a lot of people in my life pushing me to step out a little bit more and communicate some of my ideas and concepts around effective business and effective managing of people. And I'm frankly nervous and not interested. But then I see a lot of people around me hurting, business owners who don't understand things that I consider second nature, and they need help and their employees are hurting. And so I see the pain and I see the need. And there's this whole part of me that's fighting right now. Do I step out and do I begin to try to invest my time and attention into their lives and into their success stories and into their understanding and strategies of building thriving and healthy cultures? And that for me is something that I'm right in the middle of soul searching, and it's not an easy answer because I wouldn't even know the first step to take other than to hang out with people like you and, just speak my mind. And maybe somebody hears something on this podcast today that changes how they think about something. And maybe that somehow improves their employee's life and their home life. I
Yeah.
mean, that's all I know to do right now. And so if we're talking about areas I need help, it's really recognizing who I'm built to be and identifying myself in that role. I don't
Mm,
identify myself in who I'm built to be.
that's powerful. And one thing that came up when you were talking was this concept of what is enough. Because I think the world tells us more, more, and more, and more. Go get more, work harder, push beyond the limit, go get it. And sometimes, like people, especially high achievers, especially people who've been so highly driven, you've been out of your comfort zone your entire life.
Right.
Sometimes it's okay to say, "This is what I want. I've reached it," and to bask in that. So, I'll be lifting you up as you continue to search around that, but trust yourself in that too. That what you have is such a blessing your entire life.
And I live there. I'm actually very happy with my position. The problem, though, how many people around me, and this is really what struck a nerve. Until this moment, this was 2 weeks ago, I was having this conversation with somebody. They're like, how many people around you, their businesses are falling apart. They're going to lose their homes because they don't have anybody speaking in their lives. Are you really okay knowing the answers to their pains and questions and not speaking into their life? And that's the thing that really grabbed me because otherwise, dude, I'm chill. Like, leave me with my 18 employees, my little business, and my little, pastimes. But the question is that really enough? I don't want to go
Mm,
be bigger for myself. I have zero desire for more fame or fortune. I've been highly successful. I've been highly praised. And you know what? At the end of the day, I go home and I sleep and I have a heart attack and my marriage is suffering. It wasn't worth it. But I was pursuing things for me. I've also seen how much effective coaching and helping of people can change their life. And I am in the middle of that. So, yeah, is enough enough? Absolutely. Totally cool here. I've been there. I've been successful. But what's the cost of me staying quiet?
mm, mm. That's big. That's
That's what
big.
I'm struggling with.
Oof.
You asked the question.
What what is your biggest fear, John?
Horses.
Horses. Well, I used to be terrified of horses. I've gotten over that fear as of late.
I'll tell you, horses actually are my biggest fear. If you wanted to be precise, I'm very anxious around them, mostly uh, because they're unpredictable. The thing
Mm-hmm.
about the way my brain works, and the thing about me playing those video games, the thing about me doing gymnastics, and the thing about my coaching style is I know if I put this and this and this in, I get a specific response out. In business, man, to me, it's just you have these inputs, you have these processes. They're always the same. It doesn't matter what business you're in, the process is the same, and the output's going to be based upon your input and your processes. Done. Easy math. It's like I'm an Excel sheet in my brain, and horses don't fall in the Excel sheet. They're the ones who you can be completely cool around, and then suddenly they jump up and kick you in the head, and now you're dead. Like, what just happened to here? And I watch these things happen. I'm like, man, I am uncomfortable around unpredictable responses. I'm scared of that. And so for me, it really is horses as part of a larger fear set, which is unpredictability.
Whew. I think I think we share that similarity. I think
Are
because
we built the
I've
same
been
way?
careful. We are built the same way when it comes to that around horses. And I think predictability, which is gonna inform my next question, which is not on here, but um, where does the predictability come from in your life as it relates to your family now compared to what it was with your family then growing up?
Yeah, it's a great question. Families are not predictable, but there is absolutely a direct correlation between attention and time. If I can have real, true attention given to each of my children, if I can have real, true attention given to my wife and hearing her life and her stories and sharing my life and my stories with her, if I can take the time and really prioritize, hey, this isn't work time, this is family time, there is a correlation in which health can be found. I cannot predict that my children are going to turn out to be awesome, athletes and all of these top notch things. I can't do it, but I can predict across the board, if I take the time and have the true attention given to my family, that they will thrive more than if I did not, or have not, or past tense when I did not, and they were struggling and I was struggling. The point is it's more like baking, where you put in the right ingredients. It might look a little bit different in the outcome, but at least you end up with a cake. A lot of families don't even have a cake anymore because they don't have the right ingredients going into it. So predictability is a little more vague. And I think it's a great question. I will say though, that what I've learned through, now 16 years of marriage is that there isn't any crisis that should stand larger than your love. The minute something happens and that crisis hits you and it begins to impact how you love the people in your family, then you've suddenly lost sight of what the reality is. I often will say to myself, hey, this is not a crisis. This is not a crisis. I need to back up and focus on loving my family and loving them well, because they need someone stable. And if I get in crisis mindset, I become unstable and I cannot effectively father or husband in my role if I find myself in a place of instability, overwhelmed by the emotions of quote unquote crises that come up. And so for me, it's always backing you and say, hey, this is not a crisis. My responsibility here is to love my children, to love my wife, and to do it well.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that. That was a brilliant answer. Um,
Just trying to
I
figure it out.
you stumped me. I don't even think these other questions need to be asked. But John, I want to know, where can people reach you? How can they get in touch with you as just where's your reach?
Yeah, this is part of that whole conversation around me hiding from people. I don't really have I have a Facebook page. I have a LinkedIn page updated like 9 years ago. If I'm going to find myself in a position of influence, to be easier to find. Even my last name is pretty awful. It's not, if I tell you my name is John Woerner, they'll like, go look for John Woerner and find a doctor in New Mexico. It's not spelled the same way. I have a weird spelling of my last name. And so, to find me, obviously, I own a company called J Squared Systems. We have a brand of products called Magnitude Lighting. And so if you wanted to look up either of those things, you'd have easy access to me there. Obviously, my name was probably on this podcast at some point. You can find me there as well. But for me, the most important thing is, if you are looking for support, if you're looking for help, if you're looking for counsel or wisdom and how to create a thriving culture or grow your business, I want to be available as much as I don't want to be available.
It's a calling. It's a calling.
I
That's
can't
what it
argue with that.
sounds like. John, I appreciate you. This has been a fantastic conversation. With all the things that you could be doing and all the places you could be, I appreciate you being here with me, embracing vulnerability.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining us for another powerful episode of Vulnerability Muscle. I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that resonate with you. If you're enjoying this journey of self discovery and empowerment, there are a few ways you can support the podcast. First, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. If you've been moved by our conversations and the mission of redefining vulnerability, please consider leaving a review. Your feedback not only motivates us, but also helps others discover the podcast. Share your thoughts on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in. And don't forget to spread the word. Follow us on Instagram at Vulnerability Muscle for updates, and you can connect with me personally at Reggie D. Ford on all platforms. Visit vulnerabilitymuscle.com for additional resources and upcoming episodes. And remember, embracing vulnerability is strength. Thanks for being a part of the journey. Until next time, stay empowered, stay vulnerable, and keep flexing that vulnerability muscle.